This episode of The Clear Out was recorded on the 27th of December 2023 at home in Wicklow. And it is a very simple episode. It is basically my review of Bradley Cooper's Maestro, his biopic of the American composer and conductor Leonard Bernstein, maybe most famously known for West Side Story. So that is pretty much the entire episode is talking about that. I have a bit of a whinge and a rant early in the episode about some consumer concerns. I have a bad experience I had just before Christmas when I was out shopping. So that's going to be great. You're really going to enjoy that. Some really riveting anecdotes, thoughts, encounters from my life. So let's just get on with it. I'll see you around the corner. Cheers.
Ooh, not gonna change my mind. Leaving the dream behind. Keep my emoji inside.
Hi, my name is Dara Clear and you're listening to The Clear Out. You're very welcome. Thank you for choosing this episode to take in whenever you are taking it in. Now, if you indulge me and take in no speaking, no vocal from me for a moment, you might hear rain in the background. It just backed off. The moment I said that, it backed off. It's raining quite heavily. I'm recording this in the main room at home. The stove is on, so there's a few crackles there, but this is going to be a shortish episode because I just need to not be on the mic too long. Would you believe I'm having a party tomorrow? And it's just been a busy time. It's been a busy month. The last episode was 3 days late. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think I got it out late Saturday night in the early hours of Sunday morning, which was Christmas Eve. And it's so easily done, isn't it? I was contemplating this evening going, nah, I just won't bother. I was late last week. I can be late again this week. I'll just let that go and I'll do the episode in a couple of days. And then I just thought, no, don't do it. Keep your focus. Maintain your line. In martial arts terms, it's like you're chasing the center. I think it was Bruce Lee who said, one of the main sort of objectives as a fighter is to protect your own center and to destabilize the center of your opponent. So maintain your line, maintain your focus. And when I'm teaching karate, I tell the kids I teach, chase that center line. If they're doing their techniques one after the other along the floor, but we train outdoors in the garden. I say chase that center line. So maintain your line. Don't deviate. So I'm not going to deviate, but this will be a short episode because I need to get some sleep because I am having a party. I'm having a party tomorrow for myself because I'm turning 50 in about 10 or 11 days. But nobody wants to celebrate in January. Not in this part of the world anyway. If you're a Northern Hemisphere person, January, and if you're a Northern Hemisphere person who indulges the Christmas celebration, the Christmas traditions, and you go hard into that, which is basically the week up to Christmas and the week after Christmas. Generally, that seems to be the peak indulgence time, party time, which is great. I love it. But by the time you get to January, you're just like, detox and get focused for the year ahead, and let's not think about how much money was spent over the holidays. So that's why I said, you know what, I will have a party, but I'm going to have it towards the end of December, between Christmas and New Year. So that's what I'm doing. So there you go. So that's why I need to just get this done and get my tuchus, to borrow a word from, is it Yiddish, tuchus? I need to get my rear end into bed. So mainly what I'm going to talk about in this episode is Bradley Cooper's movie Maestro, his biopic of the American conductor and composer Leonard Bernstein, and his marriage to Felicia Montealegre. So I'm going to be mainly talking about that. So it's basically going to be a movie review episode. I'm hoping to bring this in around the 45-minute mark at the outside. It may even be shorter than that. So that's we're going back to almost the very first episode I did was around that length. But I also just wanted to have 2 little moments of giving out, maybe 3, but 2 primarily. I want to give a special shout out to one of the managers. This is really petty. I'm not really engaging much mindfulness, but I want to give a special shout out, a special Christmas shout out with extra sauce to one of the managers at Dunn Stores in down in Arklow. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I was in there 2 days before Christmas, doing a big Christmas shop. I was running around doing various bits and pieces, and I couldn't get a trolley for the supermarket. I couldn't get a trolley for Dunn's because it was so busy 2 days before Christmas, of course. So I had one of those drag-along baskets, and I thought, okay, I'll see what I can fit into this. And I managed to fit in quite a bit, but it was basically overflowing. So I was kind of carrying stuff under my arms as I exited the store, and I was heading back to my car, and lo and behold, a bottle of sherry I'd just bought fell from the basket. Didn't fall far, maybe 1.5 feet. That's about 45 centimeters, if you want to go metric. And it was in a box, and it didn't hit the ground hard, but it smashed immediately. And sherry was just bubbling out, gushing almost out of this box. The broken glass I could hear. And a woman said, "Oh, my heart is breaking for you." And I thought, yeah, it's kind of, my own heart is breaking for myself, because I was kind of knackered. I just wanted to go. And I thought, it's only a bottle of sherry, what the hell, just move on. So I just kind of picked it up and scooched it over to the side in front of another shop. This is inside a shopping centre. And went to the car, put the shopping in the car, and I thought, no, I'll be a good boy. I'll go back and pick up the box with the broken glass and the gushing sherry, and I will return it to Dunn Stores. And sure, then they'll just replace it for me, those nice people at Dunn Stores, because I literally just left the store and spent a lot of money buying Christmas shopping. So I went back and I proposed a swap to one of the staff, and she was like, "Oh yeah, let me ask one of the managers." And the manager was like, "No, we don't do that. We're not doing that." And I was appalled. Now inside I was sort of apoplectic. I was furious, but I was trying to, be civil and reasonable. But I was so disgusted. And he's like, no, it happened outside the shop floor. It's not our responsibility. And I just thought, okay, yeah, I get it. That's the rule. But it's just such bad faith. It's such bad faith. It's so mean. It's just the wrong way to go. And I just thought, I'd love if I had the energy and I had sufficient attitude, I would have loved to have just gone back to my car, grabbed all the shopping I just bought there, brought it back, dumped it on the floor at that manager's feet, and go, right, that's just spilled in here on the floor. Give me a refund and clean up my mess. And maybe I would have given him a Christmas punch across the head for good measure. I was so angry. But I internalized it. I didn't take it out on him. I gave him a sarcastic, that's very courteous of you. But he was resolute. Now he wasn't being rude to me or anything like that. But I just was like, oh my God, I don't believe this. So that was a consumer low point. And I just, that company is making money hand over fist. The amount of money they must take in Christmas week. I mean, all through the year, very successful. Best of luck to them. I'm sure, they'll be gutted that I'm upset. But that was one. And here's another. I was listening to Spotify, and I was listening to a Christmas playlist, and the ad that kept on playing during the Christmas playlist was for Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola basically doing this kind of do a good deed campaign, like do something nice and Christmassy for somebody, buy someone a Coke, give them your seat. And I can't stand that stuff. I can't stand, a big kind of multinational corporation, a mega corporation like Coca-Cola, who has a notoriously bad track record in certain parts of the world for their sort of violence against workers who try to organise themselves, their anti-trade union stance, the idea that Coke is a good guy, Coca-Cola, and is sort of encouraging us to be good. What I found myself thinking was, this is a very aggressive campaign. Are Coke sales falling? I mean, I loved that moment a few years ago. Cristiano Ronaldo, the Portuguese footballer, was giving a press conference, and there was Coke put down in front of him on by the microphone, and he was disgusted and just basically knocked it out of the way and replaced it with water. And I believe Coke sales plummeted in the aftermath of that press conference. And I thought, if that's the only good thing Cristiano Ronaldo ever does for the world, it was a great thing. So that kind of corporate preaching, the sort of disingenuous, we're all about feelings. We're all about bringing people together. And I just go, would you ever just get the hell out of here with that? No way. Did you hear that sound? That was one of the cats. Anyway, there you go. Coca-Cola and Dunnes Stores in my bad books. Very, very unimpressed. Even not that I was ever impressed with Coca-Cola. But there you go. Okay, so listen, that's it. I was going to get straight to it. I had been dying to see Maestro, Bradley Cooper's movie about Leonard Bernstein, and I had just been too busy to get to the cinema, and it didn't seem to be on in a cinema near me. I kind of missed the release date, which was, I think, at the start of December. But then it was released on Netflix just before Christmas. And I finally got to throw it on and watch it start to finish on Christmas night after my girls had gone to bed, still both under the weather. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I was so beguiled by it that once the moment was right, the following morning, which was yesterday morning, I stuck it on again and watched it again straight through, and was equally seduced and intrigued and fascinated. I think Bradley Cooper has done an excellent job, both in front of the camera and calling the shots behind it. It's one of the best looking movies I've seen for a long time, and it's not that it has a singular look, because he's moving through different times in Bernstein's life and changing the look of the costume design, obviously the set design. I'm not sure if he's using different film stock, but I think the effect is so striking, and for me it just worked really, really, really well. And the film, and I'm gonna talk about this. I'm gonna talk about Maestro with spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to check it out first, and then come back and listen to this if you're interested in hearing my thoughts. But if you've seen it, keep listening. Or if you think you're not going to watch it but you're interested anyway, stay with me. The movie is basically sandwiched with the scene of Bernstein at the piano as an older man in his home, and there's a television crew filming him, and that is in full colour, and he is older, and he is as ever smoking, and in that very opening scene, there was something about the way Bradley Cooper was smoking a cigarette, and the way he held the cigarette, and the way the cigarette was just so natural and sort of unconscious in his hand. It struck me straight away, and I just thought, oh, we're in deep here. We're in deep. It was, his performance, I think, is quite extraordinary, and there is something sort of egomaniacal about the performance that is appropriate, I guess, for the subject. And Cooper's his that wild-eyed energy that he can bring so easily to the screen. He is using it so much in this film, and it just fits. It fits with Bernstein. It fits with everything that he's doing as a conductor, as a composer, as a sexual being, as a lover of people, as a lover of men. as a lover of his wife and his family, as a lover of his own success, his own legend. Someone who seems to be very aware of his charisma and his attraction, or his attractiveness, to other people. But it's what I think Cooper achieves is much more sort of sophisticated than that. It's not just a 2-hour ego trip or 2 hours with a narcissist. There are other sort of notes and tones and textures and dimensions that are sort of there throughout, and there is, part of that is definitely connected to guilt. Part of it is connected to shame. Part of it is connected to trying to walk a line where he is maintaining the outward appearance of a very happy marriage to Felicia Montelegre, and at the same time pursuing his sort of, his kind of licentiousness and his desire, his lust for younger gay men. And so there's this battle there. There's this kind of tension, even though the movie clearly is giving us it's clearly showing us that Felicia Montelegre was very aware of Bernstein's sexuality, very aware that he was, very much involved in gay relationships, even though he had a sexual relationship with her as well. And she certainly in the earlier parts of their marriage, earlier stages of their marriage, seemed able to hold that, able to kind of accommodate it, without being too perturbed. But that, of course, that's one of the kind of narrative lines of the movie, is watching her become more and more disillusioned, depressed, shut out, estranged, angry, while he keeps going pell-mell, chasing his appetites and letting his kind of his id hold sway, and all, of course, in the name of making art, whether that's conducting, whether that's composing, whether that's teaching. And Carey Mulligan as Montelegre is equally good. Now, I was listening to the Big Picture, the podcast, the movie podcast that I've mentioned here before, and the critics on that, the hosts, Sean Fennessy, Amanda Dobbins, they were a bit more lukewarm about. I don't think they were lukewarm about Carey Mulligan's performance, but more that Felicia Montelegre's part was somewhat, they felt it was somewhat underwritten, and that the way Bradley Cooper has been presenting the movie as, it's the story of their marriage, it's the story of their love, and I think the guys on the Big Picture were suggesting that perhaps that was a little bit disingenuous, that the movie isn't equally weighted, and I think that's probably fair enough. But I found Carey Mulligan just kind of compelling to watch, and the scene where they meet, which is at a sort of a Hollywood party. Wait, is it Hollywood or New York? I'm off to a good start. It must be New York, is it? Yeah. At a party in the 1940s, full of performers, actors, singers, very glamorous, high energy, fun, sophisticated, and it instantly reminded me of scenes in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer from earlier this year, where Oppenheimer is at similarly sort of highbrow parties, populated by academics and scientists, and is similarly meeting women at them and kind of meeting his match on one level or another. And again, another movie where the women are perhaps underwritten. And I mean, on that point, I think when people are commenting about these movies and they feel the need to raise this question, should these female characters have more screen time? Should those characters be more wholly realized, or should we get more of a sense of the the depths and complexities of those characters? And I just feel like it's so, those observations or those concerns are so tethered to the times we live in. They're so tethered to identity politics and representation, culture wars, whatever. I couldn't tell you what wave of feminism this is now, but I don't entirely trust it. And okay, you've got the two movies I've just been talking about, Maestro and Oppenheimer, both directed by men, but the subjects are very significant 20th century men who achieved things of great significance in their respective fields, and were lovers of women, and that is interesting. I mean, it's interesting. Like, the women are interesting insofar as what are they doing in this relationship? What is the cost to them in this relationship? What do they bring? How do they, what do they catalyze in the men that they're involved with? And I don't know if that, if not kind of going beyond that is unfair to those women. I just think that, look, maybe that's not the focus of the story. But I liked the characters. I liked the female characters in Oppenheimer, the two different significant women involved in Oppenheimer's life, played by Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh. But Carey Mulligan definitely has more to do, and I think is better represented in Maestro. So I had no issue with her being, less than, or having. Can you hear my dog in the background? Pepper, just settle down. She gets a bit active when she's dreaming. She's on the couch there with the... Hey! Cut it out. Sorry. Anyway, Carey Mulligan is great in this role. And I think captures something that's very believable, which which is the sort of tension and frustration of watching someone you love sort of discard you, and not only discard you, but then bring into your sort of intimate place, your family home, your family space, the person that you've been discarded for. And in the film, this happens, I guess it's the early 70s, and there's a young man that Bernstein falls in love with, or in lust with, and he just unapologetically, insinuates his way into the family. The actor's name, I hadn't come across him before. His name is Gideon Glick. And I found him excruciating. I wanted to kill him. I felt very protective of Felicia, and I just, there's something that Cooper captures, something about if it's the male sexual appetite or it's the gay male sexual appetite, he captures it very well, and it is not to be contained. And certainly that side of Bernstein is rendered very vividly. Not explicitly. There aren't any really gratuitous or explicit scenes in the film. That's not the vibe. Quite the contrary. There's a lot of very tasteful shots, I suppose. But there's no question. Like, Cooper's not shying away from going, this was a huge part of who this person was. But in any case, to go back to the sort of the larger impressions of the movie, Cooper, after those opening few minutes, cuts dramatically to this stark and very beautiful black and white photography to set us up with the early success of Bernstein as he ascends to be the chosen conductor of the New York Philharmonic and Carnegie Hall. He's stepping in for someone who's unwell, and he's only 25. And basically what we see is the young Bernstein getting a phone call in the dark, but the screen is filled with a curtain, a large curtain with light behind it, and what it looks like a stage. And you think, oh, where are we? But Cooper answers a phone, and he's clearly just woken up, and you're thinking, is he sleeping in the theatre? Where is he? What's going on here? But it's just a New York loft apartment, and he opens the curtains and rolls over his gay lover, played by Matt Bomer, does a little drum beat on his butt and skedaddles out of bed, and there's this very flashy camera shot that kind of flips upside down as Cooper sprints from his room into an empty Carnegie Hall, and he's still in his pajamas, and then the camera rolls again, and now he's fully clothed and about to walk on stage at Carnegie Hall for the first time to conduct. And I just thought it was real sort of bravura filmmaking. I found it instantly intoxicating. It just grabbed me and pulled me in. And Cooper is using Bernstein's music throughout the movie. The movie's drowning in Bernstein's music. And if you have spent any time consuming American movies of the 20th century and the sort of mid 20th century, you will know Bernstein's music, particularly from West Side Story, particularly from On the Waterfront, maybe Anchors Away. No, not Anchors Away. On the Town, the musical. The sailors on leave in New York. I think he did the music for Rear Window as well. But it doesn't matter. On the Waterfront and West Side Story, I think are so definitively Bernstein. Like the motifs, the sort of the sexiness of the music, the energy of the music, the fluidity and soulfulness of the music, giving life to the city, giving life to the streets, giving life to the buildings, giving life to that sense of imminent danger or imminent death, and moments of great tenderness and subtlety, but just instantly recognizable. Even if you can't name it, it just is so vivid and electric, and just so full of life. It's such confident music, and it seems to me how typical that would be the case for a composer who is in his young prime in the 1950s, post Second World War America, and hanging out, a young guy hanging out in New York with, the choreographer Jerome Robbins, with Aaron Copland, these brilliant kind of gay creatives, and there's, the music just captures the sort of confidence, the joy, the sort of no holds barred going for it. So it's kind of just, punching you in the face and then catching you as you fall before you hit the ground. And so Cooper uses this again and again to different effect in the film, and it's really effective. And so we follow Bernstein into this relationship with Felicia Montelegre, and their sort of hyper verbal chemistry. At this party, their affair begins, their relationship begins, and then there's a lovely scene where they're sitting in this park. I guess is it meant to be Central Park? I don't know, but they're just sitting back to back, playing like a theatre game where they have to try and because she's an actress, and they're trying to feel this, what number am I thinking, and it's just this kind of crane shot that kind of comes down from high and just gently sweeps down to them, and this is still in black and white. In fact, the black and white kicks, it stays in that lovely black and white through the 40s until I think it's around minute 46 or 47, and then bang, we're into colour, and it's later in the piece, and they've had children, the children are older, and things are, we're in a different stage of the marriage, and Bernstein's starting to be less discreet with his affairs with these gay lovers, and Felicia is clearly, the gloss has gone off their arrangement. And I think I didn't finish the point earlier I was trying to make about this tension that's there in Cooper's performance as Bernstein, this kind of tension of, he's within certain circles, he can be very open and very out as a gay man, and a celebrated man in his community of artists and aesthetes, musicians, composers, music students. He doesn't have to hide too much, but it is still the 60s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And so there is that tension where, no, I can't be all out there with it. I still have to walk this line of, I'm married, I'm a straight man, I'm a father of 3 children. And there's a scene later in the film where his grown-up daughter, maybe like college age, played by Maya Hawke, Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter, who I saw earlier this year in Asteroid City. She's very good. She's very good in this. Just again, something about another indication or reflection of the success of the film is just the way Cooper gets these very nuanced performances from the actors, and the way they are capturing or portraying the sensibility of the time in how they speak, their sort of vocal patterns, even their body language. It's really, really good. It just feels very authentic. And Cooper, as much more so than anyone, moving through the times, moving through different stages of his life. But there is this scene where he is basically denying to his daughter that he is gay, because she's heard rumours of his kind of philandering around a university town, and he's like, no, it's all just jealousy. And you can see, she says that she's relieved, and there's just this moment where he just kind of plays the conflict, where he just wants to tell her, they're true, those rumours are true, I am that. I'm this as well, but I'm also that. And Felicia has warned him, don't tell her under any circumstances. So he doesn't. But it's it's another little moment of of tension, of complexity, of underplaying, which these are the sort of the offsets to all the larger moments in the movie. And I'm going to come to one of the the largest moments in the movie in a moment. But the other 2 things I want to comment on in the film are the soundscape and the cinematography. So the soundscape, of course, you've got a soundtrack with lots of different excerpts from Bernstein's own music. It's different scores and pieces that he wrote, as well as sometimes just music that he conducted, which wasn't composed by him. I'll come to that in a second. But there are several moments in the film where the characters are outside, and the sound design just shifts from their dialogue to the more ambient sounds of nature, and wind features very prominently in at least 2, if not 3, different sequences, and kind of takes over. And it's really, it's just really interesting. And there are another couple of different sound choices which are when, towards the end of the film, and again, spoilers here, but again, I mean, if you go back and just read the biography of these characters, even a Wikipedia page, you'll get the basic facts. Felicia Montalegre was diagnosed with cancer and died from it in 1978. And so there is the latter part of the movie focuses on her diagnosis and decline. And there's a very moving scene towards the end of her, right at the end of her life, when Bernstein comes in to sort of check on her, and he's in very jovial, form, and he kind of gets onto the bed behind her, and he's just quietly sort of weeping, and her breathing is getting ever more erratic as she stares out through the window at a tree in the fading light until her last breath goes. But again, it's just the listening to their voices, listening to Cooper's crying, listening to Mulligan's breathing, no dialogue. And it's a choice. Again, in good films, nothing happens by accident. Everything is deliberate. Everything is a choice. There's a scene before that where Cooper, as Bernstein, takes himself into a room, slams the door, holds a pillow up to his face and just screams into it and then sobs through the pillow. And it's just these kind of guttural animal sounds that again are very effective. They just kind of strike home. So the sound is really, really interesting, I think, throughout the film. The cinematography is fascinating. And again, nature, the way Cooper's, getting, those scenes to be shot. I can't remember who the cinematographer was. But there are so many shots in the film where the camera is just really far away from the subjects. Basically Cooper and Mulligan are being shot from distance, walking across a field, with, trees rising around them, shot in their garden, but from distance as they have a very intimate and quite tense conversation. About the what's going on in the marriage, and it's kind of shot from the end of a little sort of avenue that has a view to the swimming pool outside the house, and we can't see their faces, we just hear their voices and we see the figures at distance. And then another scene where Bernstein comes into the room in the family home. Kids are older. The young gay lover is there, and he announces that he's just finished writing something. And Mulligan, Montalegre, jumps out of her seat, leaves the room to go outside. Good Lord. Pepper! What's going on? I apologise for those sounds. That's my dog. What are you doing? Just relax, will you? Go and get a drink of water. Go on, get some water. She's just staring at me. Anyway, Montalegre, Carrie Mulligan, jumps out of her seat, goes outside, runs to the swimming pool, and again, the camera pulls way out, and we just see her from distance going around to the diving board, getting up onto the diving board, going to the end, and just jumping in the pool, fully clothed. But it's from distance. It's such an interesting choice. And then we get a close-up of Cooper's face, just kind of going, what the hell just happened? And the rest of the family members are amused. But you can see, again, just this kind of, he's registering just this kind of, this tension, this, I have no control over this person. I don't know what is going on. I don't know how to interpret this. Is she, why does she want to be submerged? Because now that I've finished composing, maybe I'm about to go on some, great kind of sexual escapade, as my reward, and she can't stand it, so she's just going to disappear underwater. But again, it's not said. But really interesting shots and very beautifully lit. And there were moments when I just thought, these scenes are like something from a life photo shoot from the mid 20th century, 50s, 60s. And it made me think of JFK and Jackie. And I just thought that idea of when Life captured those images from the Kennedys, they referred to them as Camelot, and this kind of idealized romantic life and this idealized first couple. And I found myself reflecting on this and going, okay, is Cooper, is he trying to say the same thing, that this was another idealized couple, the beautiful couple, the successful couple? Because Montalegre was a very successful actress as well, stage actress and television actress. So there's that thing of kind of, are these great American lives, and are they part of the fabric of the consumption of great American lives, and the way great American lives were branded and marketed, and the way they played out in public, interviews on TV shows. Basically we're talking about celebrity, glamour, sex, celebrity, talent, ubiquity, constantly there. And Bernstein was someone who was constantly out there in the public eye, famously kind of conducting concerts for I've gone blank on what they were called, but he was doing kind of young people's concerts, wasn't he, as well as teaching. And some of the best sequences in the film are of him conducting and teaching, which brings me to the sort of pièce de résistance of the movie, which is a recreation of Bernstein conducting a Mahler symphony in Ely Cathedral in England. And apparently you can find footage of this online. I haven't bothered to be that anal to go and do that, but it is an absolutely breathtaking sequence in the film, and it culminates with Bernstein taking his bow and then realizing that his previously estranged wife Felicia has come to the concert and is standing just off to sort of applaud him, and they have this very emotional embrace where she takes back something that she said to him in one of there's a scene earlier where they have a big row about the state of their marriage and the lies and the hypocrisy and the deceit, and they fire some shots, but ultimately this is the kind of the great romance of the film, and maybe the great romance of their lives, was that they really did love each other, and that love was very very meaningful, and I certainly found it very engaging. I found the performances really, I used the word compelling earlier. I'll use that again. Yeah, compelling. Just fascinated by their interiority, fascinated by how they'd resolve things, fascinated by the stakes, and I just thought, I was surprised when I heard the guys on the big picture that they didn't talk about the sound, they didn't talk about the look of the film in any great detail. They were a bit more concerned about the parallels between Bernstein, the egomaniac, and they were saying this affectionately, Cooper, the egomaniac, and we're, Sean Fennessy in particular was wondering, what's Cooper going to do next? Can he do a different kind of film rather than putting himself, front and center as the kind of semi-tragic, super talented artist, and the woman who's kind of propping him up. But yeah, look, that's all I have to say. I've gone well over my 45. Maestro is, I think it's unlike anything you're going to see. You may think to compare it to or put it alongside Tar, which I spoke about a couple of months ago. Tar, or maybe more than a couple of months. Tar was the kind of the music conductor movie of last year with Cate Blanchett in an extraordinary performance. A very different kind of film. I think you can have both of them. I don't think Maestro is lesser. It's very different. It's a very different beast. And I mean, I think ultimately, as much as yes, it is about that relationship Bernstein had with Montalegre, I think it really is about Bernstein. It's about Bernstein and his charisma, his energy, his magnetism, his brilliance, his appeal, his sexiness, and I just think it succeeds. And maybe it succeeds because, you know, Cooper takes a lot of those boxes himself. I mean, they're two absolutely brilliant films. His first two movies, A Star Is Born, I've spoken about before. I'm a big fan of that film. And I think he's done something, you know, equally good in quite a different way in Maestro. So definitely one of my favorite films of the year, without hesitation. So that's it. I'm going to leave it there. That's my review of Maestro. That's my recommendation. Do go and see it. Go and see it on Netflix. I mean, if I can find it in a cinema, I'll go and see it in the cinema, because I'd like to hear it in a cinema with that bigger sound. And I'll let you know if I do that. And I'll also let you know next week how my party went. If there were scenes of carnage, or if it was very genteel and refined. Okay, thank you so much for listening. You can find me on social media in the obvious places. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, The Clear Out Podcast. You will find me there. If you like what you hear, if you enjoy this show, you can always support me in a financial way. Get behind this independent podcast, this independent creative effort using Patreon. So that's patreon.com/The Clear Out. And for the price of a cup of coffee, a drink, a sandwich, a few bars of chocolate, whatever, you can validate what I do. You can compensate me for what I do. And I'd be very, very grateful. But if you can't do that, throw me some love on social media, spread the word, recommend it to a friend, leave a review, rate the show. That all helps. And that would be great. Thanks very much. Okay, thanks for listening. Mind yourselves. I'll talk to you soon. All the best. Bye.